Welcome. So I'm excited to kick off today's episode of Leaders in the Arena. Uh, Today we're going to be taking a look at designing smarter customer journeys with AI. So as businesses, navigate to kind of this increasingly complex landscape of customer expectations, we're going to take a look at how the customer journey has kind of evolved from being that traditional linear journey and explore how AI is enabling more adaptive, responsive experiences that really meet customers where they're at. So I do want to kick off by introducing Bridge Innovate. If you're unfamiliar with us, we empower teams to lead, think, and problem solve differently. So our co-design approach really aligns with teams, fosters buy-in, and drives meaningful change, empowering you to shape your future. Bridge was founded in 2003 by Jenny Whitener, bringing over 20 years of experience in partnering with leaders to solve problems and simultaneously build their leadership capabilities. And our clients engage with us across a wide variety of means, from consulting services to future lab sprints, leadership and team development training, and many even come book their meetings at our studio space in the Chattanooga area. So thank you for joining us today. I want to introduce myself. My name is Luke Plating. I've spent about 7 years at Bridge Innovate, specializing in experience design, marketing strategies, technology, and software. My work really focuses on helping organizations create more meaningful connections through thoughtful design and implementation. My background really combines design thinking methodology with practical marketing technology expertise. I'm a certified project manager and also certified in areas like design thinking and lean tools, along with platforms like Webflow and HubSpot, which kind of give me that perspective on both the human and technical side of customer experience. I've been fortunate to work with organizations across different industries, from Shaw Industries to Morehouse College to Kenco Group, Unum, United Way, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, running design sprints, working on transformation projects, and helping them solve tough challenges and embrace innovation. So, but really, since the widespread adoption of large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, these generative AI tools, a significant part of my focus has been exploring ways to really thoughtfully incorporate these technologies into both the design process itself and the customer journeys that we create. So I've been working closely with teams to really find the right balance between AI capabilities and human creativity, and I'm excited to share some of the findings, hypotheses, and experiences with you all today. So I do want to start just by kind of traveling back in time here and kind of setting us up with this concept of the funnel, which you're all probably familiar with. It was actually founded in 1898, the 1800s. A man named Elias St. Elmo Lewis really kind of changed marketing and introduced what would eventually be known as the funnel model. So he had this AIDA framework, which is awareness, interest, desire, and action, kind of established this paradigm that dominated business thinking for the next century. So if you think about it, the funnel was really brilliantly suited for its time. It was a world of mass manufacturing, very limited channels, information scarcity. Customers really followed predictable paths. Businesses could really control the message and the medium and the timeline. And success meant effectively converting prospects into customers through a series of linear stages. The funnel did have a fatal flaw, though. It really ended at a purchase. So customers kind of disappeared after conversion, right? Becoming nothing more than a metric on the dashboard. So it worked in an era when switching costs were high and alternatives were few. But around the 2000s, maybe 2010s, pioneered by companies like Amazon, HubSpot, a lot of big subscriptions providers, you kind of get this more customer-centric journey, or you could call it the flywheel, right? So this circular model, recognizing something profound, that customers don't really disappear after a purchase. They become advocates, referral sources, and repeat buyers. So this flywheel acknowledged that momentum, not just conversion, drives sustainable growth. It's kind of a paradigm shift, right? So place the customer at the center of the business strategy rather than at the end of the process, and recognize that delighting existing customers creates a powerful force that attracts new customers, and emphasize that reducing friction in the customer experience really accelerates the business momentum and growth. So it perfectly captures the reality of social proof, subscription economics, the rising cost of acquisition versus retention, right? It costs a lot more to acquire new customers than to retain your existing customers. Um, and it's very customer centric rather than company centric, continuous rather than finite. But even the flywheel seems to have some limitations in today's environment as customer behaviors are changing and new technologies being adopted. So that's what we're going to talk about here. But and also you see customers pushing back against things like subscriptions. I don't know how many subscriptions you have, but you kind of see this approach facing a bit of pushback from customers. But I do want to put a question here in the chat. Does your organization track your customer's journey? Do you use a funnel or a flywheel approach? Let me know in the chat. I'd love to hear from you all. But as you're putting your responses in there, I do kind of want to talk a bit about the changing customer behaviors. So the modern customer landscape has really fundamentally changed. Brand loyalty is remarkably fragile. McKinsey found that 75% of consumers switched brands at least once last year. Today's customers come armed with information. Over 80% conduct extensive online research before purchases. They compare options across multiple sites and channels, and their expectations have skyrocketed as well. So Salesforce shows that 80% now consider your experience equally as important as your products. And nearly 3/4 expect you to understand their unique needs. And this new reality, more informed, more demanding customers who are ready to switch. That's why traditional models are, not, they're a bit too simplistic, right? And so it kind of demands a different approach to how we think about customer journeys, which is where we can introduce this emergence of a third model. And for today's purposes, we'll call it a predictive network. It's meant to really reflect a fundamental truth about modern customer behavior. It's not linear, it's unpredictable, it's very contextual. So in this kind of predictive network, customers can enter and exit at any point, not just at the top of the funnel. Journeys are unique to each individual with countless possible pathways. Experiences adapt in real time based on behavior and context. And then AI can orchestrate and personalize experiences across channels and touch points. Value creation happens continuously through intelligence and adaptation. So it's not really just an incremental improvement. It's kind of a recognition that the entire landscape has transformed, right? While customers have infinite choices, unlimited information, and you rapidly shifting expectations, these static journeys really don't work as well anymore. So it's kind of fascinating though, because I see this as like a full circle evolution where maybe this adaptive network recreates at a massive scale what like a local merchant did over a century ago, right? The shopkeeper who remembered your preferences, anticipated your needs, and like built a relationship over time was kind of operating in an adaptive network just without any technology. It also brings us full circle to the most timeless principle of great customer experience, which is genuine human empathy, really the core of human-centered design. So all the technology, data, intelligence we're discussing really do serve a fundamental purpose, which is to better understand and respond to human needs as they actually exist, not really as we simplified them to be. So the sophisticated technology really can enable more human experiences, and we'll get back to that point in a bit. But I do kind of want to just illustrate this concept. I think a helpful illustration is just look at the world of the internet and social media. You remember Web 1.0, where users had to actively seek content through deliberate searches and visiting specific websites. So the journey was very linear, right? You search, you find, you purchase or watch a video, or you have to know what you want and where to find it, right? It's this pull-based action. And the onus is on the customer to seek information. And then we kind of move into this customer-centric flywheel era where social media platforms create content recommendation cycles based on your social connections, right? So content discovery became partially automated through shares and likes and follows. Users contributed to each other's discovery through their engagement, creating this kind of continuous loop of content circulation. And now we're kind of more in this adaptive network era, which is where we're in these AI-driven content ecosystems that really proactively serve you personalized content streams that are tailored to your individual behavior patterns. You kind of often tell you what you want before you know what you want, right? So people often say TikTok's algorithm knows me better than I know myself. You look at things like Netflix recommendations and Spotify's Discover Weekly, really exemplify these systems that don't wait for users to search, but instead anticipate interests and continuously adapt based on small behaviors and contextual signals. Um, and I do want to put a caveat. I don't want everyone to think that, what we know about customer behavior has been thrown out the window, or I don't want you to think I think that. The fundamentals still do remain solid. Google still dominates search with over 90% of the market share. People still do follow basic decision-making patterns. They still respond to clear value propositions and compelling offers. So what's changed isn't really the core psychology of buying, but rather the context around it. More channels, higher expectations, and less patience for friction. So customers are still taking some familiar journeys, but maybe with more detours, shortcuts, alternate routes that are available to them. So the shift to this kind of predictive network isn't really about abandoning what works. It's about enhancing it with greater flexibility and intelligence. So building on these proven foundations rather than replacing them. All right. And so I do want to talk about how we actually design these new journeys in practice. So what this means is that deep customer understanding and empathy is really more important than ever before. And it kind of begins where it always has, right? With deep customer insights. We think about this Steve Jobs quote, you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology, not the other way around. But we're looking for behavioral patterns. We're looking for what triggers changes in behaviors. But we're kind of evolving beyond, what does a segment typically do to looking a bit more contextually, how does a segment react to a certain scenario or behave differently when they're on their phone versus on their desktop computer, right? So and instead of creating these rigid personas, we're really trying to use those insights to develop more flexible customer models, not just like static snapshots, but more kind of dynamic profiles that capture how the same person might behave differently based on context, urgency, or some previous experiences, right? So the question kind of shifts from being who is our customer to how and why does our customer respond. And then we get into journey mapping, right? And I'll talk through each of these points in greater detail in subsequent slides. But we want to identify the moments that matter most to customers. What are those catalyst moments? What are the moments that might cause them to fall out of a journey or to stop interacting with us? And then we want to identify those response opportunities. And this is somewhere where AI can really help us quickly adapt and indicate specific needs, moments where proactive, and just be more proactive in general. And so, and then finally, of course, we test and refine. So the beauty of this approach is you don't have to transform everything at once. We start with a few high-value response opportunities, test how well your approach is addressing real customer needs, and expand. And that's something that AI can allow us to do quite quickly. And so I want to start by looking at that first point there on the left on the customer insight side. And so, you still are constantly gathering customer insights through qualitative methods, quantitative methods. But what AI allows you to do is really make sense of the insights in real time very quickly. And I'll look at this in two contexts. One is an example that's kind of closer to my line of work, I guess, on the digital marketing side. Take a look at the example of a landing page, right? So when you launch a new product or a new feature, a new service, you typically have a landing page that you want users to stand up at, and hopefully they give you some kind of information that you can then use to follow up with them. And so in the past, marketers would create a handful of landing page variations, would run A/B tests for weeks, declare a winner and implement it for everyone. But that approach really ignored a fundamental truth, which is that there's really no singular best experience that works best for all customers. So today you can use AI platforms like IntelliMind, I believe it's now purchased by Webflow, Webflow Optimize, to analyze thousands of visitor signals in real time, their device, location, referral source, time of day, previous behavior, and instantly adapt the page that specific visitor, right? So the headlines, the visuals, product features, even the social proof calls to action could shift dynamically based on what's most likely to resonate with an individual in a given moment, which results in higher conversion rates. You're being, it's a more unique experience for the customer. So while I'm highlighting this marketing application, you can see how the same capability can transform any business function, right? Customer service systems that adapt response strategies based on like emotions that they're detecting, or product experiences that emphasize different features based on usage patterns, pricing models that flex based on purchase context. So it's kind of this shift from assuming that we know what customers want to actually just building systems that learn and adapt to what they need in the moment. So that's one sense. That's more the output side of AI. But I think what's more equally revolutionary, but also very applicable to this context of designing customer journeys, is what's happening on the input side. So that's our ability to truly understand customers at an unprecedented scale and depth. So, every day, your customers are telling you exactly what they want through thousands of signals, through reviews, support conversations, survey data, social media comments, interviews, and within this data are kind of insights that can transform your business. But traditionally, we've only been able to analyze a small amount of that at a time, right? And AI is really changing this equation. So systems can now digest millions of customer feedback points across channels, identifying patterns and correlations that human analysts would take a while to discover. So a component about website navigation frustration could correlate with abandonment patterns in your analytics, and product feature requests and support tickets aligned with competitive switching reasons, exit surveys. So you're looking for points of alignment across these kind of disparate feedback systems. And I'll show you kind of a simple example of this, but companies can really use these capabilities to discover that their customers have really been telling them how to improve it over years, but they just had a hard time kind of hearing the signal through all the noise. But AI really lets us do that. So I'll show you an example. Just oftentimes when we're doing customer insights, we, like I showed you in the previous slide, we collect qualitative and quantitative insights. We go out, we do some surveying, get some hard data, and we pull review metrics, that kind of stuff, and we also talk to people, do listening sessions, and focus groups, get voice of customer. And so I'll show you an example here, just plugging in some data from just using ChatGPT essentially to analyze survey data, and alongside some listening session transcripts to identify some common themes. And I put in some helpful pointers as far as how to effectively prompt ChatGPT specifically, being very clear as to what your goal is, what you expect in terms of the return format in the response, give it some warnings, and also dumping in any context that's relevant to the prompt. So I always, when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I always want to give have the model return real metrics, and I'll show you here. Let me stop sharing my screen and pull up the other screen. So for example, go ahead. So if I plug in my survey data and my listening session transcripts, I attach them to my prompt, and I ask it to analyze, extract key themes and actionable insights, and validate the findings with some real metrics. And then what that allows me to do is also double check, make sure my AI assistant isn't hallucinating, it's getting the numbers right. So then it gives me back some really great insights backed by data. It noticed a few things: demand for more local and regional storytelling, for example, which ranked highly, was also emphasized by multiple participants in listening sessions. So it allows us to kind of, I already plugged this prompt in, but to identify common patterns and themes across our customer insight sources, backed by real data, and also help us just prioritize, which items are actionable, which ones we want to move forward with, and gives us that data to then justify those decisions. So Just an example and some tools that you can use just pretty easily to start doing some effective prompting and getting your AI assistant supporting you with your customer insights analysis. So typically insights are used to then form personas. And I want to think about this in terms of traditional personas versus it's kind of more dynamic or psychographic segments. So traditional personas were kind of these static snapshots, right? Meet Jane. She's 35. She lives in the suburbs, has 2 kids, and an income of $75,000 a year. So useful, but very ultimately limited. What we're moving towards, at least in our practice, is kind of these more psychographic segments that reveal drivers behind behavior. So instead of focusing primarily on who customers are demographically similar to, we're trying to understand why they make decisions and how their motivations shift across contexts. So, two people can look identical on paper, but behave differently based on their underlying motivations, their values, their emotional needs. And an example here, we go beyond basic demographics and surface level information to reveal deep psychographic insights. So, we try to look at motivations. We try to look at emotional highs and lows throughout a journey. And these enhanced profiles really tell us how our segments think, feel, and behave in different contexts, which is really the essential foundation for kind of creating these predictive networks and allowing us to design systems that recognize patterns and really respond appropriately. I do want to touch on one thing, which is this concept of synthetic customers. So as we're shifting from static personas to more dynamic psychographic segments, AI simulated persona testing is unlocking new possibilities in experience design. It's companies like IBM and Microsoft. Imagine if I were to upload that persona sheet I just showed you into like a chat GPT and say, become this persona and tell me how you react to a marketing campaign, or again, that persona should always be based on real customer insights. But that is a possibility to do some rapid testing. Again, it's never going to be as good as the real thing. Take that with a huge grain of salt. There are very important limitations to consider, such as the authenticity gap, bias reinforcement, lack of genuine emotion, right? Missing cultural context. But I just want to touch on that as an application of AI throughout the experience design process. You can even develop over time these kind of GPTs that represent your persona. And use that to kind of test some aspects. But I want to get to the journey mapping aspect, which is this. We're moving kind of from these linear progressions, but real customer behaviors don't really follow like super linear paths, right? So what we've done is kind of expand the journey map, right? We're trying to acknowledge the familiar stages while capturing the complexity of real customer behavior. Oftentimes that means a bigger journey map, right? So, organizing it in a traditional flow for clarity, but, embedding some of these adaptive elements, emotional highs and lows, thinking of these stages as more cyclical, and identifying the catalysts and fall off points. And also, super importantly, mapping the technology layer that really powers these experiences. So, showing what data is collected at each touch point, how it flows between systems, and creating a cohesive understanding of each customer. So this map gives us a shared framework. We're also acknowledging the nonlinear reality of how customers actually engage with us. And of course, these customer journey maps are ultimately useful for identifying opportunities to improve the customer experience. And I'll show you an example here. Again, just a very simple example using my chat GPT. And I've put another prompt guide here. Again, asking the assistant to create 3 opportunity briefs by analyzing gaps in a journey map. So once I've done my journey map, I can give it to my chat GPT, tell it what it should include in the return format, give it some warnings, right? And also, providing some context. And I'll show you what mine came up with here. I put in a journey map. Again, I asked it to leave any company specific data off, but it gave me some pretty good ideas, right? So it identified some gaps in the booking experience. This is just an example of a hotel journey, a hotel guest journey. So it gave me some 3 opportunities, suggested actions, key insights, potential impact. And then I can ask it to build on these, explain further. I can plug in my data that I showed previously to show, which of these we should prioritize, if there's anything else that missed that we should be prioritizing. And so it really just allows us to identify those opportunities quickly. And again, not replacing the human aspect at all, but really just, let me share screen here again. But really just acting as a collaborative brainstorming partner. So I do kind of want to wrap up here and close with, I think, a really important truth of all this, which is that the ultimate purpose of these adaptive systems is not really to replace human understanding, it's to create more space for it. So AI is a powerful complement to human creativity. It can allow us to get to ideas faster, can act as our brainstorming buddy and get us to the place we need to get faster and more efficiently. But the ultimate purpose is not to replace human understanding, to create more space for it, to push us back past those analytical barriers and move and change faster. So, while AI excels at optimizing what exists, it can't yet imagine what doesn't exist. So true transformational breakthroughs still come from human observation, conversation, and insight. And, a couple examples here, looking at some of these innovations, Apple Watch fall detection, the prescription timer cap. These weren't created by optimizing existing data, but by someone noticing unmet human needs, right? So the most innovative companies don't use AI to replace human-centered design, they use it to amplify it. They let the machines handle the scale and complexity of modern data, which free humans to do what we do best, which is to connect and create and imagine possibilities that haven't existed before. So I do want to close by asking you, what are your innovation ambitions? AI can really tremendously help with core innovation. It can optimize your existing products for existing customers. It can support adjacent innovation as we expand into related areas, right? But that true transformational innovation, developing breakthroughs for markets that don't yet exist, still fundamentally requires human insight and creativity. So the future, at least I think, belongs to organizations that recognize the balance, using technology to handle complexity while preserving that irreplaceable human element that drives true innovation. And in the end, all of these adaptive systems serve hopefully one purpose, which is to create some more meaningful human experiences in kind of an increasingly complex world. So that's just my encouragement to you all. And I'll wrap up with a couple ways to engage with us. If any of this is of interest to you, we'd be more than happy to hold a lunch and learn with your organization, introduce these concepts to your team, and just have a discussion about what you're doing. We also offer future labs, which are these focused workshops that apply these frameworks to your specific customer journeys. And then, of course, on a broader scale, these kind of experience design transformation projects. And whether you're just beginning your journey or ready for some more big scale transformation, we'd love to partner with you. But I think that puts us just about at time. Thank you all for joining us. And I'll wrap up just by sharing what's coming up next. We've got a test drive of our Experience Point experience change simulation. We've got some other webinars on the slate. Go ahead and go to bridgeinnovate.com, click on the events tab, and we'd love to see you at an upcoming event. Thank you.